Hello everyone, today we're going to be talking about worms. So there are many different types of worms, but one similarity that they have with each other is that they all have protostome development. So as you can see here, those are all worms, including mollusks and arthropods, but we're focusing on the worms today. So the first one is phylum Platyhelminthes, aka flatworms. So some of the evolutionary advancements that they have are bilateral symmetry, 3 cell layers, protostome development, and a central nervous system. So they can be parasitic, and they can cause many different diseases, which we'll go into in a bit. So some characteristics of flatworms. So this is what a flatworm looks like, and some characteristics. They are asoelemates, which means they have no body cavity. They range in size from 1 millimeter to 1 meter. They have thin, flat bodies, as you can see here. They have very, flat bodies, and they're very cool. They use moving cilia and slime-like mucus, so they create this mucus, and then they slide on top with their cilia. Then they have no circulatory or respiratory organs. They use diffusion. So this is the structure of 3 different types of worms that I'm going to get into. So the first is the flatworm, or phylum Platyhelminthes. Don't know if I said that right. Again, my apologies, but yes, we have the flatworm. It does not have a fluid-filled cavity. It only has a digestive sac and a tissue-filled region with a body cover. So that's the difference between these and the roundworms and segmented worms. So it gets a little bit more complex as you go into the roundworms. So it has a digestive tract, it has body covering and a muscle layer with a fluid-filled cavity here. And then this one over here, the segmented worm, is the most complex of the 3. And it has the body covering, digestive tract, and then this is where it kind of differs from the other 2. It has a tissue layer lining the xylem and suspending the internal organs. So that is a fluid-filled cavity, as you can see here. So it has more tissue than the roundworm. This segmentation actually allows for a lot of benefits, which include the movement, and so it lets the worm's body move in ways that are much more complex than the others. So when an earthworm crawls on a flat surface, it lengthens some parts of its body while shortening the others. Another thing is that they have more developed systems, so they have a complete digestive tract with 2 openings, as well as an esophagus and intestines. So it just allows a lot more movement. As you see, like this little worm inching around, it's moving its body in a way that the roundworm and the flatworm could not. So then over here we have some classes of the flatworms. So they can be parasitic or free living. So as you can see here, Turbolina is free living. Its habitat is water, either marine or fresh water. It has an eye spot which perceives light, and oracles, which are chemical sensitive. And an example of one is the planaria. That's maybe what you think of when you see a flatworm, although the picture before is also a very cool worm. So then this is Trematoda. It's parasitic, hosts blood and organs, and needs 2 hosts, and the example is a fluke. So the Cestoda is parasitic. It lives in the host intestines, and it lacks the mouth and gut and have proglottids, sections with specialized cells that form continuously. An example of which is tapeworms. Tapeworms are obviously, you all know, it's a very big issue. So, how do flatworms reproduce? They are hermaphrodites, which means they produce both egg and sperm. They're fertilized internally. They're marine flatworms, and characteristics of marine flatworms are zygotes and release. Zygotes are released and they look like a cocoon. Then they hatch out after about 2 weeks. For free-living flatworms, they can reproduce asexually through regeneration, and that their body splits in half, and the missing parts regrow within 2 weeks. So The feeding and digestion of flatworms. They do not need a host. They feed on dead or slow-moving marine organisms. They have a pharynx, which is the nose of the mouth, that releases enzymes to help begin the digestive process, and food particles get sucked into the gastrovascular cavity. They also have one body opening. And for parasitic flatworms, they have modified feeding structures called hooks and suckers, which feed on the blood and other bodily fluids and absorb through cell walls. So that could be an example of a leech, but they're not flatworms, so just disregard that. Next up is the ribbonworm. Don't mind the quality, but that is phylum Nemertea. They enjoy shallow temperate oceans. They eat worms, small fish, and crustaceans. They move into cilia and slime, similar to the flatworm. And they have a proboscis, which is a long tube-like structure to catch prey. Their evolutionary advances are a one-way digestive system, a circulatory system, and a hydrostatic skeleton. A hydrostatic skeleton is a flexible skeleton supported by fluid pressure. These guys feed on benthic in the benthic zone, sometimes even deeper. They're coiled up under stone, buried under sediment, live in empty shells, mollusks, etc. They also can have seaweed, and they also have the ability to swim to the surface. So much longer, they're much longer and a little thicker than the traditional flatworms. They have the different structure. As you can see, they're not flat as the flatworms. And they can be pale or bright, carnivorous. They eat typically crustaceans, and they have a proboscis, which coils up around prey and has sticky, toxic secretion. It comes from the head end and helps them hold and immobilize prey. They either eat prey while whole or suck it tissue by tissue. So 3 evolutionary advances in phylum Nemertea. I already discussed this, sorry. So how do these worms reproduce? So the eggs and sperm are released into the water and fertilization occurs externally. And then the zygote develops into a planuliform larva. Again, don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I have learned so much about my pronunciation skills from doing these videos, I can tell you that much. So I'm just going to pop up a cool picture of the worm as I discuss the parasites of these different types of worms. So the first one is schistomiasis, which nests in blood vessels and breeds in the intestines and bladder. It builds up into granulomas. They are infected from freshwater. They penetrate the skin and enter the body, and symptoms are extreme abdominal pain, fatigue, organ failure, and death. So you can prevent this by not swimming in those environments. Next is Toxicara. It's a roundworm that thrives in the body. They enter the bloodstream and attack the organs. Their waste triggers painful rashes, and they can live in many environments. So they're infected by coming in contact with cat or dog feces. Symptoms are bumps, painful oozing, blisters, open sores, rashes, and possible death. And you can prevent by washing your hands. Next is the Gongylomina pulchrum. It stays inside an animal's throat when transferred to a human. It burrows to a nesting area and lives primarily in the human's mouth. It's infected by when it passes eggs through a host's poop, spread by insects, and bug fragments allowed in food foods get consumed. So symptoms are worm in mouth. Prevention is to rinse, avoid food that is raw or undercooked, such as like meats, and wash your hands after handling the food. And treatment for this is removal. Next is the lung parasite. It's a parasitic flatworm that invades the lungs of humans and other animals. They consume lung tissue and breed. The symptoms arise slowly over time. They're infected by mammal saliva or in a freshwater a snail or crustacean that gets infected, and finally someone who eats a crustacean raw or undercooked. So symptoms are coughing, blood, chest pain, mass in lungs, shortness of breath, and the prevention is to be careful about eating freshwater crustaceans, and the only treatment is removal via surgery. So then finally is the pork tapeworm. 60% of people with the pork tapeworm has cysts in their brain. It's transferred from pigs to humans, and they can grow as tapeworms several meters long. So yeah, not fun.